Here in November, there's a vague requirement to attack. Essentially, the Brits need to trim some of their replacement points. They spent all their supply on a single attack, maybe not on the best hex they could. They did like 14 points of damage to 13 in response. The Germans also launched something, I don't know what, down here across the Seine. A quick attack across there. Again, not doing them any good, really. There they had to burn some supply points. They're looking at, well, the Brits helped them out afterwards, but they're looking at, well, if I don't burn them, I'm going to be over the limit next month. So I've got to kind of kill them all at this point so that I can, I don't know. I really don't know. And it means a winter offensive, and there's sort of this lack of overall strategy forming, which feels fine in a tactical game for me when you don't, have a clear view of what you're trying to do. But here, it's just pure opportunism, and I don't know, it's kind of making me grumpy. Well, even with the Germans significantly defending Mulhouse, as I'm told it's pronounced more or less, the French were able to push through there. They've got a significant amount of power there, and without the trenches in place, there were no entrenchments there yet. It was easy to take. That's 30 demoralization points for the Germans, well worth having done for the French, and now it opens things up for pushing up through the Rhineland area and maybe cutting this entire area off. That's bad news for the Germans, really bad news. One thing to note, though, there's no real will here. Is this demoralization, which is just bad stuff happening. So Le Grand Guerre handles things kind of nicely in the sense that, yeah, even the morale of your troops is essentially affected by how well you're doing. So if you do really well, you can boost your position up. Here, it's just a matter of, it doesn't matter what you take, except in terms of collapsing the other guy. There's no possibility for improving things. That's okay, I guess. It's just, another thing that I kind of like the way LGG handles it better than this. Well, as we push through most of November, we're through the 5th turn, actually, of it. 2 more to go, and serious thoughts of quitting. Having to hunt a piece down and then just saying, man, I screwed up the gas. It's not every year, it's every month you gotta check. So even after I found out that I screwed up. So probably gas would have shown up. I kind of want to see it happen. And I still kind of want to see the assault troops and the tanks in play. And see how things play out. I have a really hard time breaking away from that. But anyway, the French were looking at the possibility of an attack somewhere in this range because they had a big stack of units, and I distributed some of them along the line in order to try to get another breakthrough. But then I looked at the French national morale, and it's at, or their demoralization, it's at 1,400. At 1,500, they're over the line. They lose their ability to produce at the same rates. To me, that feels like a bad choice to launch an attack at this point. I don't know. I don't know what the German one is. If that was close to the line, if this was what would break them, that would be awesome for me. But the truth is, it's not. I've got really another 700 to go on the Germans. So, but the French don't know that. All they know is that they're close. And another assault is going to put them right on that line. Probably early next year, they'll fall over. At least a significant one. So they've pretty much called off their attacks. The Brits, I don't know where theirs is. It's like they're supposed to hit 1,200. They're at 300 and something. They're in great shape in terms of that and can keep pounding the Germans and themselves. But the French army, to me, has sort of been neutered by this fear of the weakening of the national will at this point. I'd like to drive the Germans over before the French go over. I'd like to... Basically, I have no compelling reason to attack. Supplies aren't high enough to force an attack, and it's not like I can ever run out of reserve troops with the French. And I've got a lot of fixing to do still. So there's no real reason. This last attack down here was a very bad one for them. So I'm going to hold off. And basically, I think for the rest of this year, not much is going to happen. Although there may have to be some attacks in late December or sometime in December. Well, I set up the reinforcement track. Big effect for 1917. You can see this huge pile of German troops. This is withdrawals from the Russian front for the most part, but also a lot of it, well, some of it's withdrawals, this big stack of artillery here. Some of it's just assault troops, which are upgrades. There's a lot of withdrawals built in there. You're going to be replacing 8.5 infantry with 12.5 assault units. The assault units, once they lose those first 4 assault strength points, which is kind of weird, like, they stop being assault units anymore. And I don't know if they flip over and become something reasonable. I think they still look like assault units on the other side. No, they flip over to 10.5s. So, theoretically, you should be replacing them with the 8.5s, I guess, when they get down to that strength. I'm not sure. But definitely a lot of stuff coming in. There's going to be a lot of swapping, a lot of crap going on. I'm really not looking forward to that. Oh, let me roll for my gas, since I've never done that before. And I know it's like a 2 or 12, so let's do the Allies. Okay, the Allies got a 2, which means maybe they got gas. I know I'm getting gas from this. Yeah, rules in between setup, everything. Okay, so what did we get? Okay, the Entente gets a gas marker. And I'll have to look up and see what they can do with this. They can pretty much just hold on to it. It's 2, 3, or 12 for the Germans. And they do not. Alright, so that's going to be our first use of gas. Again, you know, a lot of historical stuff got screwed up because of how I played it. This should have showed up a lot earlier by probabilities, but who knows? Maybe I could have rolled poorly throughout. It's not like there's a tremendous chance of it. I don't think that's going to cause an attack to be launched. I don't know. We'll see. The Brits have to launch one, so they may use it. The problem with them is they're just not generating a lot of supply points. They've got tons and tons of troops. Alright. Okay, pushing into January of 16, the Hindenburg Line is completed. Or, December of 15. The Hindenburg Line has been completed now. First turn of winter. And the Germans are setting up, they can't begin construction because it's winter, on extending the line up along the Somme. And then also down here. I don't know how many, they're limited by countermix, so they only have X amount, and I don't know if that's the right amount. But they have nothing better to do with their engineers right now. They're in the process of falling back for the most part. They're not making any gains. The English are going to have to make an attack, but as I was searching through my troops to try to come up with one, I noticed, wow, they've already got a lot of units that are damaged that I had forgotten to pull out of the line yet. But they do want to make one because of gas. Every month that you hold a gas counter, there's a chance that it disappears, that the enemies come up with countermeasures for it before you even got to use it. The information leaks, essentially. Alright, not much happening. The French started shifting some artillery up here. That's to threaten, I think there's a fort in that space or something. The Germans can just move more artillery into that area, though. But, make them spread it out beforehand. It means no surprise attack, that's all. And I realized the U.S. is supposed to come in, and lo and behold, more problems with the reinforcement track. I look for this 5-4 Infantry Division number 5. So I sort through all of these, look for them. First of all, there are no 5-4s that are divisions or anything like it. But the 7-4s, which would flip over and be 5-4s, but no, none of them are designated 5. The only thing that is an 8-4. So there's no way of representing 5 strength points with this. Not by the game. And if you can do that, there is no reason to, well, almost no reason at all to have this not be a strength point game. Whatever little difficulties are added in representing the brittleness of bigger units or whatever, go away if you could represent this with more than one counter. But you're only allowed to use one counter to represent a loss on a unit. Now this is an 11-4 unit. Oh, yes I can. No, I can't. Because I could put a half on it and it would be a 6. I could put a half on this and it would be a 4. I could put a -2 on this and it would be a 6. There's no way to get a 5 from this. I don't know. But that's the unit they want in, and it's got an extra strength point I can't have. I don't know what I'm supposed to do about that. Anyway, I'll set that up for next year as well. Okay, and over here we're performing the first gas attack. These 3 hexes, French artillery included, I've only supplied the artillery. The infantry is at half strength. I've decided the British, if they get a breakthrough here from the gas, want to be able to continue, and in a sense they want to continue anyway, because they need to take casualties, and they don't have enough supplies. They only get 20 supply a turn so far. And that's until April next year. April next year they start getting 30, which should be enough to actually, provide the amount of casualties they want to create. And yes, that sounds really weird. The desire in this game is to burn your resources, whatever they are, add cost to the opponent. So now this is the first gas attack, so we're going to roll to see what the effect is. And chances are it's not much. But let's see. Okay, a 4, that's not good. Gas impedes the attack. The attack's got a -2 to the DRM to the attack and a +2 on the counterattack. That's not good at all. The Germans have some 70 strength points. They had no terrain bonus, but now they have one. I'll come back with the results of this. And with that penalty, things didn't work out well for the English at all. They only delivered 7 losses to the Germans and took 14 themselves. That takes some of the pressure off. Now, they certainly would have gotten better odds had they thrown the supply in. The additional supply would have meant another 60 strength points, probably close to 50% more damage. It would have been a close to equal battle. As it is, though, either way it wouldn't have been pleasant with that gas result. Okay, so the Brits launched another attack on this hex and pretty much wiped it out. I was actually surprised at how deep into it they got. They caused some 17 casualties to 10 for themselves, or 9 for themselves. Full artillery support, everything they could get in there. Again, though, the main reason here, they didn't have enough supplies for the troops. They, in fact, had almost none. They had 1 point that they could use for the troops. That's why I was shocked that they got a really good result. They got a good die roll, I guess. And the Germans are going to have to plug that gap again. And that's another hole in the line that they're going to have to shift troops from somewhere for. The last turn, it looked like, in fact, the last couple turns, it looked like they were kind of shifting troops in ways just strengthening everywhere. Now they're going to have to weaken places in order to make up for that. But, of course, they have to make sure the line's absolutely smooth, which I will never do, in order to provide no traction. And absolutely smooth is kind of hard to judge, because this is a particularly important hex because it has no terrain advantages. Most of the other hexes give at least another, -1 to the attack. So one could do all kind of calculations there, but the base idea is to give the attacker an option of, okay, you want to attack me in the clear hex, there's going to be more troops there. You're going to attack me in one of the rougher hexes. You might have better numbers going for you, but not by a lot. That's not a big shift. But you're going to attack me in a hex where you only have 2 units adjacent to the hex, two of your own hexes adjacent. Well, I can decrease my force significantly, but maybe not by the 2/3. You know, the bulges can't be that much harder because a lot of the force is actually supplied by the artillery pushing it. Of course, the Brits are out of supply now, and the Germans know it. They know the Brits don't have the supply for a full force. So, there is the possibility of an attack on the Brits. The problem there is you still can't dislodge them any easier. But they had to weaken some of their hexes over here, over here. These aren't really easy to attack, though. Well, the French have too many supply points after December ends. The start of next year, they'll have too many. So they wanted to clean that up and did a little bombardment on Metz. 9 strength points, killed 3 supply points. I think that's all they need. I have to, of course, add everything up again because I can't remember in my head completely what these numbers all add up to. This is probably the biggest thing right now. Other than shifting troops and everything, a lot of time is spent, not a huge amount, but a lot of annoyance is spent on adding. And you know, when the annoyance levels breach too high, for me, I begin to grow avoidant of the game. So, well, I run off and play a computer game instead. Which is why I should probably just quit this sucker. Unfortunately, because there are other things I'd like to be playing, and there's other things other people would like to see. Unfortunately, my sense of duty doesn't allow that, but it does allow me to put it off and not play. Such is life. Things may change soon. February 1st I go back to work, so video games may not be a possibility anymore. They suck me in and take every breathing moment of my life. I'm going blind from them. I hate them. I really despise what they do to me. I'm playing a GTA, an old GTA one that, you know, once upon a time I can remember, oh yeah, I used to be able to come in, play one mission and leave. Well, they've become so immersive now that I just can't break away from it. I'm playing it and playing it and playing it. Alright. So, that artillery blow killed 1 point off the Metz fortress there. Not a big deal, but you know, the French have to burn the points. They caused a demoralization point for it. Whoop-de-doo. You know, that's the best they can do. I mean, really, they don't want to lose troops, particularly. They don't want to launch a bad attack. And the Germans are continually having to withdraw units. Their line is getting weaker and weaker. They may have to pull back to that Hindenburg line. But I don't want to. I really don't want to. It feels like, oh, if I could, well, the snip here never really happened. And, you know, I'm losing ground here. I lost this bulge. Constant attacks by the Brits are bleeding me. I don't know what this is doing me anymore, except being in a more exposed position than the Hindenburg line. But here's the problem. If this breaks, I have the Hindenburg line to fall back to. If the Hindenburg line somehow is broken, what next? We've got the open fields of Flanders out there, and that's not good. You know, that becomes the territory that is indefensible. Why the Germans were able to charge forward so fast? Well, if their line breaks there, Belgium is open, basically. And that is not a good scenario for the Germans. Of course, that line's a lot less likely to break, but I think it's less likely to break even after this line's been broken. See, here's the risk. The nibbling on these edges because there's not enough troops. The attacks over here, maybe over here before the Somme line is constructed. These are the things that prevent that make it attractive to tighten the line a little bit. Pull back to the Oise. Give up the Marne. Give up their line along the Seine. But I don't like retreating, man. And nothing new and significant. No big shock. I mean, this is static warfare, obviously. Trench lines. A couple of them have been put into place down here because of the surge that the French made. They finally achieved that. No additional attacks going on. Germans took their 65 demoralization point hit. They're up to 35, almost 3,600. This last year, 1916, really hit them harder than 15 did. And it hit the French harder too. It felt like 14 was huge. Those few months in 1914, demoralization levels went way up. Well, 15 felt kind of mellow. But now we're closing it. It looks to me like the nations of France and Germany are going to collapse at some point during 17. Or whatever kind of collapse. I mean, we're talking about the economic collapse. We're just, it's not as severe, but things just keep piling on. The English are still in pretty good shape, mainly because they haven't had the supplies to perform the attacks the way the French and Germans have been almost compelled to attack and attack and attack. The English just can't. This year, at some point, they're going to start getting, and we can find that. I've got the page open, actually. Looks like March is where they start getting March of 18, sorry. April of 17, they start getting 30 per month, which is getting more to the level of, for the amount of frontage they have, they can conduct some assaults. But, honestly, the French and Germans with 40 have been getting by with very few in the way of massive attacks. It's tough to actually convince yourself to attack in this game. Even though you probably have the edge in doing so in terms of demoralization points you cause. You can probably push enough of your units into an area where the enemy is a little weaker, or a lot weaker, and even tripled, they're a lot weaker, or a little weaker, and you can do more damage to them. But, it's just, you don't want to drain your supplies. You don't want to be the guy who has no supplies and is halved, and the other guy gets his breakthroughs because of that, because he can put that force then on your weak spot. And it costs a lot more to make those attacks than it does to defend. Alright. Well, this one's going up, end of 1916, beginning of 1917, and I had a little glitch over on my reinforcements track. These Germans in February had slipped into March somehow accidentally. That was easy enough to fix. Alright, up it goes.